That's right. So America is celebrating its 250th anniversary, the United States of America, and to celebrate it, we thought we'd take a road trip across the country. But instead of visiting famous landmarks in person, we're going to follow a bit of a different map, one drawn by Walt Disney and the Imagineers himself. You see, there are many places in this great country that also are in the Disney parks as well. The charming streets of Main Street, USA, the history of Liberty Square, the landscapes of Frontierland, even the glamour, yes, of Hollywood, everybody. All of them were inspired by real places, real people, real stories found across America. So today, we are going to actually kind of hit the road to discover the towns, the cities, the landscapes that helped shape the Disney parks. Along the way, we'll explore why these places mattered to Walt and the Imagineers and what they reveal about Disney itself and what he chose to tell about America. Right, Michelle?
Yeah. I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes here. When we first started talking about this episode and planning it out, we really expected to be spending a lot of time talking about the ways that Disney celebrates America. But the more we dug into the research and the more we're looking at some of this information, began asking ourselves things like, where did this all come from? And what real places inspired these things, like you said, like Liberty Square or Frontierland? And how did Route 66, Hollywood and the American Southwest find their way into the Disney parks? So after a while, it really started to feel more like a road trip and really emphasizing and focusing on those real things in America that, as you said, Walt Disney and the Imagineers linked into and built into the park. So that's the journey for today.
And that's the journey that Michelle's taking us on, because she's put in some great work. So this is going to be great, because Michelle always has the best research, right? So this is going to be fantastic. As a matter of fact, she got a little scared last night. I'm going to let you a little bit behind the scenes here. A little scared last night when she thought all the research she had done, or a lot of the research she had done, had just disappeared, vanished, gone away, goodbye. She was in a little bit of traumatized. However, we were able to rediscover it, and it's ready for you. And now she's waiting to share this with you as we take you on the great American road trip right in the Disney parks, Michelle.
Right, exactly. And we're going to first start at Main Street, USA. And it's interesting that Disney, he created Adventureland and Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, and, wanted to start, though, our journey and his journey for us into a place that is community gathering, which is Americana, right? Mm-hmm. The shops, the patriotism, all there that you get in Main Street, USA. And it really helps you as a guest to be a part of those early days of the country when small towns and everything really were prominent throughout the country. And there is still something that connects us to appreciate that community and that core of townhomes. Now, we know that Main Street, USA was inspired by Marceline, Missouri. So let's take a look at that town and why it was so important to Walt. Around the time that Walt lived in Marceline, Missouri, the census of the population was around 2,600. That was in the 1900. And then in 1910, it was up to 3,900. Any guesses what the 2020 census of Marceline, Missouri is, honey?
Let's see. So what was it in the later years? 3,000 something or other?
3,900.
3,900. I'm going to go say maybe 17,000. How's that? That sounds like a good number.
17,000? You're off.
Yeah. That's no shock to anybody. I'm off. Yes.
I would have probably guessed similar to you. It's actually 2,123.
Wow.
2,123.
Wow. 23.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So population-wise, it's about the same as when Walt was living in Marceline. So what can we discover about this town? Well, clearly there's pride. You can tell. I did research into looking at some of their, websites, and they post the minutes and the agendas for future town hall meetings and everything. And one of the things that really caught my attention was their brand statement. So I'm going to read it because I do think it's worthy to highlight it. It says, "We are Marceline, Missouri, and our story is the story of America." Oh, this is going to be hard, I guess. For well over 100 years, people have been drawn here for our rich land, rail heritage, and our warm people. We are the story of the American Railroad. We were founded in 1888 along the Santa Fe line, and the railroad truly shaped our story. Named for the wife of a railroad administrator, our community and its propriety were tied to the line. We are the story of the American coal miner, with numerous mines and all the support industries that went along them. Ours is a community of loyal employees, a hearty work ethic, and deep, deep roots. The fuel from our soil powered the rail and helped to connect the West. We are the story of the American dreamer. At the turn of the century, Elias Disney brought his family here to start a farm and was drawn to this place by the values of this community. It was on that farm that his son Walt's imagination was born. That ingenuity and creativity is still thriving in our publishing and manufacturing industries today. We are Marceline, Missouri, and we are proud of our amazing past. We are just so silly. I get so
Not at
emotional.
all.
We are proud to tell the tale of how the rail has woven together so much of our history. We are proud to have preserved the best of small town America. We are proud to be the home of dreamers, and we are proud of the vision we are creating for our future. We invite you to discover this place we call home, sit along Walt Disney's Dream Tree, and see the place that inspired American legacy. Visit our shops, grab a bite in our traditional corner cafe, and feel the warmth of a true classic. Spend a day here, and you'll know what it means when we say, Marcelina, small town America, perfectly imagined.
That's really nice. Very,
I didn't think I was
very
going to have a tough time. Jeez.
And by the way, you can actually, the D23 often hosts events where you can go out there to Marceline and visit Walt Disney's home. If you're interested in that at all, you should check into it. I've often thought that this is a virtual road trip. Sometime when we do a real road trip, that one of the places we may steer off to is to go to Marceline.
Yeah, I think it would be so phenomenal. Yeah. So like I said, if you go to their website or Facebook page, they share so much there. They have an upcoming event, and if you're watching on YouTube, you see on the slide, it's their pie war, and it's something that's very rich in their tradition, that they have this where people, they bid on different pies that are being out there as a fundraiser. But as I said, you can immediately sense that rich community value. It's rich in nostalgia, but they're also very forward-looking. In fact, they have a group that's working already on what they want their town to look like in 2040. So they are definitely very progressive as well. So.
Yeah, and absolutely. Main Street USA is Marceline. I mean, it's small town USA in general, but I think we all know that Walt wanted that feel that he grew up with when you entered in Disneyland specifically, but also Magic Kingdom as well, of course, and many of the Disney parks as well. And yes, I think, we get that small town feel when we enter into the Disney parks, Magic Kingdom, Disneyland. But also it's that nostalgia of that small town feel, and the nostalgia that you're back in the happiest or most magical place on earth.
Right. And that's a great point, because one of the things that when you're there and you're experiencing things, yes, you're feeling this nostalgia, but there's something more about it. And I think it's what it is. It's that communal event, right? That you're happy and thrilled that that you're there, and you're surrounded by people with the same feeling. So it's really that bringing together community, even though you're among strangers, but you all are having that same type of experience.
It's a very warm, welcoming feel, right, when you walk into those parks,
Right.
for sure, no question. And it just, as giant and massive as these parks can feel at times, it's very, very intimate more as you're walking down Main Street, USA.
Exactly. So, by the way, I do want to just throw it in here. If you've never done the flag retreat ceremony that happens each day around 5 p.m., you can find out, what time exactly on the app, or ask any of the guest relations folks, any of the cast members for that day what time. But it is definitely, again, very community, very patriotic, big time.
Yeah. It's great for veterans. Usually the Dapper Dans are there. There's oftentimes the band there as well. It is a wonderful, wonderful ceremony, and something you should experience at least once during your trip. But at some point, definitely take it out.
Yeah.
Check it out if you can fit it into your plans, for sure.
It's a short little thing about ceremony that's about 10, 15 minutes maybe, but it is definitely worth checking out. So
for sure.
All right. Any other thoughts before we move on?
No, let's move it.
All right.
Let's hit the road.
Let's hit the road. All right. So our next destination on this road trip is a part of the country where the American freedom was forged, right? Colonial America. And we find these examples in Liberty Square. Right away, when you look around Liberty Square, you see loads of like architectural design and details that are very representative of colonial America. Now, honey, I know you did the Freedom Trail in Boston, right? And you found that as interesting and fascinating.
Right. And I did that myself without a real tour guide or anything. I would love to do it actually with a tour guide. But yeah, I found it fascinating to check all these points along the Freedom Trail where all these amazing historic moments are right there in the center of Boston, which is pretty incredible. As a matter of fact, you're walking down these and you're like, wow, this is where this happened. And this is where that happened. And meanwhile, people are buzzing by, going to work, going to do whatever errands they have to run in the day, paying no attention to it. But when you're there visiting, it's like, wow, this is pretty incredible.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's part of this, and what we're hoping to accomplish with this road trip is when you're going into these parts of the park, that you now can pause for a moment and have some appreciation for what's there. Yes, you might want to be going through Liberty Square to get to the Haunted Mansion or something like that. But, along the way, there's some phenomenal sites that can really be appreciated. And let's go into those now.
Yeah, and obviously, these are mock-ups of these actual locations, but I do find it interesting. One, they're a tribute to these locations, but also they may inspire you to visit those locations when you do happen to get to these great places within the country to explore them for yourself.
Good point.
Because this is a great spot within a Disney park. Maybe I should go there, or vice versa. This is someplace that I visited. I want to see the Disney parks interpretation and the Imagineers interpretation of that area.
Yeah, that's a great point, honey. Yeah. All right. So we're going to start with the bridge. You know that there's a bridge that you take over into Liberty Square. Now, this bridge, if you're watching on YouTube, is the actual bridge from the Old North Bridge, which is called now Old North Bridge in Concord, Massachusetts. And that's the spot where the Revolutionary War really started.
It shot her around the world, as we like to call it here in the United States.
That's right. That's right. Just an aside, another behind the scenes here. It was when I got to this point of preparation that I realized, okay, the focus of this presentation or this episode today is changing to be, really looking at what inspired all these things in the park, and studying that. All right. So that's the bridge. As I mentioned, it's definitely representative of the original bridge that was very, important to the American Revolution. But then you also, after you get over there, see this huge tree. It's called the Liberty Tree. There's 13 lanterns in there representing the 13 original colonies. There's also the 13 flags around there representing the original states of the colonies. Now, what's interesting about this particular tree at Walt Disney World, Liberty Square, is that it was more than 130 years old when they were developing the land to build the park. And they found this and realized this was something important to preserve. It wasn't in that spot. They transported it to that spot and made it part of the landscape there and what it represents, being called the Liberty Tree. So that was something that was really, you know, if you think about it, companies and everything, they could have just knocked that tree down. It was definitely in the way where they were where it was living. But they recognized it and preserved it. So I thought that was pretty cool there.
Also, it's a tree that you may sit under it because it does provide some great shade. There's actually some kind of a wall there and some benches that you can sit there and kind of just, take a rest in. Maybe your family's grabbing something or going on an attraction or whatever. And you just want to take a pause under a shady spot. You may not notice what the impact is with it and with the importance of this tree. One, that it's just on its own nature, it's a classic older tree, but also the fact that yes, those lanterns are hanging from it. That it is the Liberty Tree. It's to kind of showcase the fact that these original 13 American colonies, struck against the Great British Empire at that point and ended up, becoming this nation that we are now celebrating 250 years of.
Exactly. Now, Boston had a Liberty Tree. Can't take a picture of it because it got cut down by the British. But it was a meeting place for the Sons of Liberty, that they would go in there sometimes as they were preparing for protests or celebrating some of their victories. And so it did get the designation as being called at that time the Liberty Tree. And then other towns also started having Liberty Trees where their equivalents to Sons of Liberties could meet and plan and congregate to talk about what next steps needed to be. So on your next road trip, make sure you're looking at that spot and taking a look, especially as we're celebrating the 250th anniversary. This is very representative of how it all started.
Right, very much so. It's a very impactful tree and worth taking your time and looking up, as Michelle likes to say.
I'm going to bring that up. It's good that you already started that.
Yes, very nice.
All right, so we can explore some other fun things in Liberty Square. Obviously, there's the ye old Christmas shop, and it has the styling of Colonial Williamsburg. And not too far from Colonial Williamsburg and from that store is the Liberty Bell. Now, Walt Disney World's Liberty Bell is a replica, but it's pulled from a mold of the original Liberty Bell. So it has that, you'll be able to understand and see it, the size and the look of it.
It's like a brother or a sister of the original Liberty Bell, right?
Exactly. Now, you mentioned looking up, and I do agree with you. There's a lot of things to look up and see in this land. But I do want to talk about one very interesting detail. Actually, there's a couple of them. One of them is regarding the shutters in some of the places. Do you remember about the shutters?
No, I don't.
Okay.
So I'm glad you're here to remind me of what it meant.
All right. If you notice on some of the buildings, the shutters look a little askew or, crooked on the building. And it's not because that needs to be repaired. That was planned in the design. And that's because during the Revolutionary War time, they were taking the metal hinges off of the shutters at their houses to use that metal, repurpose that metal for weapons and things like that. And so they replaced them with leather to hold the shutters up, but leather over time would stretch and the shutters at those homes would, start to look crooked.
Interesting touch that the Disney Imagineers added to that area.
Yeah. Just a little detail that, one, you might not even notice it, or two, you might notice it and think, wow, those are looking kind of weird. They need to fix that. Nope. They don't need to fix it. It's there for a reason. Now, there's one other important thing to look up that I want to bring up, and that is about lanterns. And now you remember, we all know about Paul Revere, right? One if by land, two if by sea. And the plan was to have the lanterns hung at the tallest structure of the time, which was the Old North Church Tower. And that was a way they did end up putting the two lanterns because the British were crossing the Charles River and heading towards Lexington and Concord. So There is a building there, and I'm not going to tell you because I want people to look up and find where those lanterns are in Liberty Square.
Well, Michelle just gave you a task.
That's
Gave
right.
you a task.
Did you go by the church when you were on the Freedom Trail?
Yes, it's part of it. It's part of the Old North Church is part of it, along with the statue of Paul Revere there, which what Paul Revere gets the fame for it all. But there were many rioters who took place on that night in that excursion.
Right,
Paul
right.
Revere is the most famous of the rioters.
Right, exactly. Now, even the Haunted Mansion is styled. It's a Tudor style home that is very much the styling of places in colonial USA during the Revolutionary War. So the details expand into since that is in that area as well. Now, when you're on a road trip, you got to stop and have some great food, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about that as well. Now, one of our favorite places to grab a bite is the Columbia Harbor House. And that's not just if we're in that area. That's when we're in Magic Kingdom.
We will go out of our way to go to Columbia Harbor House because it is one of our spots. And it's one of Scott's favorite spots as well. That's part of the reason.
Yes. There's obviously a lot of convenience with the mobile ordering as well, but they do have like the best hush puppies there. Those are,
Michelle loves her hush puppies.
I do love my hush puppies.
They went away for like a week and she was traumatized by it.
Like, we gotta bring it back. But they do have other things that are themed, other dishes that are themed to it, which is like the New England clam chowder and the lobster roll.
Slipping in her Massachusetts semi-accent here.
Exactly. But anyways, when you're in that restaurant, there's just something with the decor and the music that's playing. It's just very colonial style music in the background that transports you. You just feel you're in a special place.
All the wood grains, and it's a little dark, but not like scary dark. It's just kind of comforting dark. It's just nice, especially if it's been a hot day, to get out of it and get in there and cool off for a little bit, have some good food and enjoy the ambiance. And it's a great spot.
Exactly. So another wonderful establishment that they have in Liberty Square is the Liberty Tree Tavern, and that's a buffet style. It's casual dining. They have 6 different dining rooms that are themed, and they are named for key people of the American Revolution. So there's the Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, John Paul Jones, Paul Revere, Betsy Ross, and George Washington. So
and there's really great food there. That is one of the best spots for food, especially if you want to eat a lot.
Yes,
it's great food.
If you like Thanksgiving, it's year round. You can get that, but it is,
pot roast. If you like hearty dishes that are kind of very comforting, comfort food, comfort American style dishes. Yeah, it's really good.
Exactly. All right. So before we move on, though, there's one other fun fact that I want to mention about Liberty Square. And it has to do with storytelling that the Imagineers built into it. Do you know where I'm going with this one?
I think I know where you're going with this one.
Okay, let me hear what you think I'm going to talk about.
I think it's the trail that leads right through the middle of Liberty Square. That if you're wondering why there's kind of the pathway, kind of this brownish trail running through the middle of it. What that involves, Michelle? Why don't
you tell us.
Well, back in the day, there were no indoor bathrooms located within these homes in colonial areas. So when people had to use their in-house facilities, they would take it out and dump it out there, and it would all go into the middle of the road and run down the middle of the road. And so that is when you're walking there, well, let's just say it may look like a nice trail, but if it was real, it wouldn't be such a nice trail. And that's also the reason why there's no restrooms in Liberty Square, because there were no restrooms in the colonial era buildings of that time.
Exactly. So don't go looking for a restroom in Liberty Square. It's one of the few places that you cannot find one. Now, in Liberty Tree Tavern, they do have a restroom. However, it's way in the back where where that is situated in the building, it is technically no longer in Liberty Square. So,
I mean, they have to have one in a restaurant, in a dining establishment. They have to have one with at least reasonable distance from anybody there. But yeah, that's why there's not one in that spot now.
Exactly. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you are somebody who is wheelchair bound, they don't have an elevator. So something to consider. Anyway.
So far on our road trip, we've hit Marceline, Missouri. We've hit pretty much most of the northern eastern coast for the colonial area. Where are we hitting next, Michelle?
Okay, well, once the country had freedom, what did people want to do with it? They wanted to explore. So that's what we're going to do on the next part of our road trip across America. So let's saddle up and head to the west. Now, how do you think we're going to travel, honey, to the west?
Well, this is the road trip, so we're going by car, but I'm assuming you're talking about going back in time and where they were traveling. It would probably be kind of the covered wagon, maybe?
I kind of figured this question was going to throw you off. Actually, you were closer when you're thinking road trip.
Okay.
So the Mother Road.
Whether you're talking about Route 66?
Exactly.
That is the Mother Road. Yes. Yep. Okay.
All right. So we're going to travel along that historic route, and we're going to take some stops along the way. And first thing if you think about Disney parks, is Cars Land has the Cozy Cone motels to explore, where you can sit for a while and get some snacks. And so we're going to take a look at kind of what represented that. And it's actually the Wigwam Motel. There was actually a chain of several of them in the past. There's now only 2 remaining villages along Route 66. And this one here, if you're watching on YouTube, is the Wigwam Village number 6, because that's how they were named. They were given numbers, and it's in Holbrook, Arizona. The other one that's still around is Wigwam Village number 7 in San Bernardino, which we'll talk about shortly. But let's take a look into Wigwam Village number 6 in Holbrook, Arizona. I do want to point out here that the naming is not very sensitive.
No.
But that is what the name of it is. And so we're just recognizing that is the name of it. Now, the rooms are pretty basic. There's 200 square feet in the room, but they do have modern features. So they do have like a bathroom and shower, TV, and Wi-Fi. So they have, at least those conveniences as well. Now, here's a picture in there that they have, because a lot of times they're leaving out cars in this motel chain, and I swear that one looks like Flo Park there if you're looking on YouTube.
Flo's on the way to her diner, and she stopped by the Cozy Cone.
That's right.
Yeah,
so
sure.
All right. So the next thing that I mentioned was the Wigwam Village number 7, and that is in California. Now, this has a distinction because it was built by the creator of Wigwam Village concept, which was Frank Redford. And he opened his business in 1950. It initially consisted of the office and 11 cabins, they called them cabins, in a semicircle around a grassy area that had like a fire pit and picnic tables, really trying to be communal again. And which to me sounds a lot like Cars Land, right?
Right.
You got the semicircle, you got things trying to draw people together. Now, after a long time, and we know Route 66, it lost its glamour and stuff like that the motel did get run down. However, the Patel family, who are immigrants from India, they purchased it in 2002, and they really did work to bring it back to its former glory. And actually now, as of 2012, is registered as a National Historic Place. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. And Cozy Cone, I mean, if you look at these pictures on YouTube, and you can go look them up for yourself when you get online sometime, Yeah, I mean, of course they look like teepees,
Mhm.
but they also very much look like they could be the cones from the Cozy Cone.
Exactly.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is, we know that the animators and the Imagineers, when they were making the movie, and then they were building Cars Land, they took road trips through Route 66 to
10
find it.
days, a
Yeah,
10-day road trip.
to capture all of these and make it as semi-realistic as possible. Get that feel, and you get that feel definitely when you're in Cars Land, like you are in the middle of somewhere in, I don't know, Arizona,
Right.
somewhere along Route 66 for sure.
Exactly. So, all right. The next thing that we want to mention that is in Cars Land is a replica of the Arch Bridge. Now, in Cars Land, you'll see it in Radiator Springs, Radiator Springs Racers. There's a bridge and a waterfall. And this was inspired by Pasadena's Colorado Street Bridge. If you're watching on YouTube, you see a picture of that actual Colorado Street Bridge. This bridge was actually completed in 1913. I was shocked to see how long ago. Remarkably, the company that built that had one single cement mixer to pour all the cement for that. I mean, that's pretty impressive. The bridge
It's
itself,
a large bridge. If you've ever been there, when you see it, it's a very large bridge. Even this picture doesn't really capture it. It's
right?
very large.
Yeah, and it connects Pasadena to LA, which was really poising it to have continued growth. So. Anyways, now Cars Land has a lot of other details and examples of things that were inspired, that the Imagineers became inspired during that road trip. But we really need to move on at this point. And so we're going to move a little bit further and go to Utah's Bryce Canyon via Big Thunder Mountain. So we're going to start with the first version. And if you're watching on YouTube, this is actually the Disneyland version, which was the first Big Thunder Mountain in 1979. That Tony Baxter was inspired by Utah's Bryce Canyon. Sorry. And so, what makes it so special? Well, it has these hoodoos. I hope I'm saying that right. Those are irregular columns of rock. Now, hoodoos do exist on every continent, but in this park, they have the largest concentration anywhere on the earth. So pretty cool. Now, if you want to visit in that park, the National Park Services has hikes that you can take, or they have shuttles that'll take you through and explore. So let's take a look at a couple things about it. So one of them has a path that's called the Navajo Loop Trail, and it winds between a lot of limestone and Douglas firs. But in that area, they also have the park's most famous hoodoo, and that is Thor's hammer. So I thought that was pretty cute. But it's pretty clear to see how the attraction really does strive to capture the scenery that's in this park. It's pretty amazing. Now, obviously the attraction has its own storytelling and its own lore, but it is pretty cool to see how they did capture, especially in the colors and the rock formations and everything, coming from such an amazing place that you could definitely see if you were at that park, Bryce Canyon Park, why Tony and the Imagineers were so impressed by it.
All they needed was the wildest ride in the wilderness to be going through those rock formations we were seeing on those on those photos. And you're right in the middle of Big Thunder Mountain for sure.
Exactly. Now, we're going to continue on to San Juan County, Utah, and Navajo County, Arizona, where Tony Baxter and the Imagineers took inspirations for the next two versions of Big Thunder Mountain. And that came actually from Monument Valley Navajo Tribal Park. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of see the differences of, or the pictures comparison of the actual ride and the park itself. Now, they designed it to reflect the red coloring in there of the park, and the sharp silhouettes, the towering formations, the desert and the landscape of Navajo Nation. Monument Valley is not a national park. It is a tribal park. So because it does lie within the boundaries of the Navajo Nation. So something, again, if you're looking to visit what inspired such an amazing attraction, is an amazing spot like that.
Yes, which, by the way, we all reside within the boundaries of partially the Navajo Nation, but the entire indigenous Native American nation. Just to put that out there. Since we are celebrating United States of America's 250th anniversary, let's celebrate also the indigenous people that were here long before we were.
Exactly. In fact, it's interesting that you said that, because my next thing that I was going to mention is the Navajo, which are known as and I hope I say this correctly, Diné. They moved to the American Southwest around the 15th or 16th century, a long time ago, as you said. Now, the first recorded European contact in the area was actually 1776, but they were Spanish explorers in that area. However, the Monument Valley remained pretty much unknown to people other than the Navajos until the 19th century. Now, this area really came into spotlight into the 1920s, and that's when the Golding family began operating trading posts in the park or in the valley, and they were selling like groceries and other supplies to the people who lived there. Eventually, though, the owner, Harry Golding, he caught wind of a Western film in the works that Hollywood was producing. And so he and his wife packed up their things and went to Hollywood, and he managed to meet with some local film producers, and he showed them pictures of Monument Valley. And so not long after that, the movie Stagecoach in 1939 was featuring John Wayne, was filmed in Monument Valley. So it really started that where the major film industry was going there to film
for locations,
for location shots for films. But perhaps the most famous shot in a film of that has to do with Forrest Gump. And so if you're watching here it's a clip from the film that has Forrest and the band.
Forrest went on his own road trip back and forth across the United States.
In his running along Route 163. But if you can see in here, you see in the background, the Monument Valley in the back. So now, since we're talking about Hollywood, I thought it might be a good place to kind of complete our journey for right now. I mean, there's loads more, but I thought, why not end our road trip in Hollywood? And how do we get there? Well, we have choices. We can get there through the history, food, and industry of Hollywood at both Disney Hollywood Studios, at Walt Disney World, or Disney California Adventure Park. Either way, it's ways that guests can really get to appreciate some of the authenticness of Hollywood. Now, honey, since you lived in that area, you were born and raised in that area, I thought maybe you might want to highlight a few things about the Disney parks in Hollywood.
Yeah, so we'll just talk about California in general, but also Hollywood for sure, because Hollywood is obviously a big aspect of this, and it's a big aspect of Disney in general. I mean, so much has happened within Hollywood through Disney. But yeah, Disney's Hollywood Studios, just walking down when you enter into the park, and same with Disney California Adventure Park. You're first transported into classic Hollywood, the streets, kind of the way the feel of the shops are, the look of the buildings and everything, and even the soundtrack will transport you into classic Hollywood. If you get down to the end of Disney's Hollywood Studios, that strip, you end up at the Hollywood Brown Derby right there, which is a classic Hollywood restaurant, no longer open anymore. But man, back in the day, that was the spot where a lot of people would go to eat. A lot of celebrities would go eat. As a matter of fact, there'd be caricatures in there of many celebrities who had dined within that establishment. They still, at the Hollywood Brown Derby in Disney's Hollywood studio, have some of the classic recipes, some of the classic dishes from that restaurant that you can enjoy. So if you want to get a feel of classic Hollywood, that's one way to do it for sure. Then at the end, of course, is the Chinese Theater, which you can still visit in Hollywood. It still exists in Hollywood. Back in the day, it was Grauman's Chinese Theater. It's been since purchased by other conglomerates, but it's still the Chinese Theater, and you can still go out there and experience a little bit of Hollywood, including the footprints, handprints of many, many celebrities. And you can do that at Disney's Hollywood Studios as well. Celebrities who have entered into those parks and put their handprints and footprints down there as well. So definitely can get a feel of Hollywood in both of those. Now, you want a little bit more? How about a little bit more modern? California or Los Angeles or Burbank for that matter, now just opened at Disney's Hollywood Studio, the Animation Courtyard. You want to feel what it's like to walk into the actual Walt Disney Studios in Burbank? Well, you're not going to completely get that there, but you are going to get very, very close to it by entering into that courtyard, because they have captured that immaculately with this new area, with signage, with artwork, with spaces, with the Mickey Sorcerer's hat over the building. It looks really, really close to what we've experienced when we've been lucky enough to visit the Disney studios, right, Michelle?
Yeah, exactly. It really does capture so much of the look and feel. And I do like that they now have, entertainment in that area, and they do have, characters coming through from time to time. So it's really coming alive.
And that's even before they open up the magic of Disney animation, which is going to even capture that area even more so. But just right now, great place to go and hang out and get a little piece, a little feel. Hopefully someday you will actually get the chance to get out to Burbank and actually to Disney's Hollywood Studio, or Disney's the Walt Disney Studios in Burbank. But if you never do, you get a little piece of it right there, which is pretty nice. Other places in California you can see right there in the Disney parks, including kind of a version of the Santa Monica Pier, also talking about kind of the LA area. When you go through Pixar Pier, when you get the whole boardwalk area, and you get the roller coaster, and you get the Pixar Pal around with the giant Ferris wheel there.
Right.
Much feels a bit like Santa Monica Pier. California has a diversity of nature. And so when you go also to Disney California Adventure Park, you can also get a feel for some of their mountain areas, especially the Sierra Nevada, capturing parks like Yosemite. A feel of that. Some of the massive redwoods that you can experience in that area as well. Not far from Pixar Pier, you can actually get a taste of a little bit of San Francisco, although now it's San Francisco, but still based on San Francisco, and still that kind of feel of that boardwalk area and that kind of spot within Northern California. And then, of course, there's also the wine regions. Yes, they even have their own vineyard right there in the middle of Disney California Adventure Park. So you actually get a touch of the vineyards within California as well while you're there. And you can experience many, many California wines at that location as well. So lots of ways to have your road trip with California included in it when you're doing your Disney Parks internal Great American Road Trip.
Exactly. Well, thank you, honey. That was great.
Sure.
Now, so to recap, our road trip has taken, you had mentioned some already: Boston, Concord, Williamsburg, Philadelphia, Marceline, across Route 66, Pasadena, San Bernardino, Bryce Canyon, Monument Valley, Navajo Tribal Park, and Hollywood, California, all without leaving the Disney parks. Now, you listeners, you might be asking yourself, why didn't Hyperion Adventures podcast cover New Orleans Square in their Great American Road Trip? And we completely agree. It should be included. However, next month will mark the 60th anniversary of New Orleans Square, and that means a deep dive episode is coming up. So we're saving all the the information that we would share about our road trip of New Orleans Square for that episode.
Yeah, so that'll be great as well. And yeah, that would be intentionally. Matter of fact, I think it's in our artwork. A little bit of touch in New Orleans Square, a little touch in New Orleans, because that would be a great spot to hit up on the road trip as well. But yeah, that'll be fun to get to coming up on an episode as well. There's many areas that we've only hit some of them. There are so many more areas we could hit up at the Disney parks. And if you wanted to include the resorts, even more so, places that you could actually add to the road trip. You could even add Hawaii in there, although I don't think you're going on a road trip to Hawaii anytime soon. Maybe within Hawaii, but not to Hawaii. But you can also include that in there as well.
Exactly. Yes. And Polynesian Village Resort is a perfect spot to get a taste of Hawaii as well.
Yeah, or even the Enchanted Tiki Room.
That's right.
A little bit of that.
That's true. So, anyways, that is our Great American Road Trip.
Without ever leaving the Disney parks.